You didn't misunderstand The Little Prince as a kid. You just weren't the audience yet. Behind the drawings and simple language is a book wrestling with isolation, responsibility, and why adults slowly forget how to truly see one another. So let's strip away the fairy tale surface and uncover what The Little Prince is actually trying to tell us. Yeah, we all know this cover. It's everywhere, translated into, I don't know, hundreds of languages. And it absolutely presents itself as a kid's book, right? It's got all the markings. Whimsical planets, talking animals, and of course, this little guy with the golden hair, a simple fable. But here's the thing, is it really for kids? That's the very first assumption we have to challenge, because the second you open the book, the author Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, he tells you something completely different. I mean, right there in the dedication, he's not just writing a story, he's practically sending a message in a bottle. It's addressed to us, the grown UPS, the ones who, as he says, have pretty much forgotten something essential about once being a kid. Okay, so let's dive into part 1, the illusion of simplicity. The book wastes absolutely no time setting up this clash between two ways of seeing the world. It starts with a test for the reader, right on page 1. The narrator, when he was a little boy, draws this. He shows it to the adults in his life, and every single one of them sees the exact same thing. A hat, you know, a normal, practical, boring object. They just see the surface. But of course, it was never a hat. It was a boa constrictor digesting an elephant. It's a whole story about nature and imagination packed into one simple drawing. And the narrator's big conclusion is the grown UPS always need to have things explained. It's like they've lost the ability to see what's really going on inside. And this becomes a theme that runs through the whole book. The adult world is completely obsessed with what it calls matters of consequence. You know, serious, important things like bridge and golf and politics. From the prince's point of view, it's all completely superficial. Just a bunch of games with rules and ways of keeping score. For the grown-up, if you can't measure it, it isn't real. A beautiful house is only understood by how much it costs. A person is just their age, their weight, their income, and the little prince himself. He's only real if you can slap a number on his home planet. All the things that actually matter, his charm, his laugh, his questions, that's all just treated as childish nonsense. So, where does this deep sense of alienation actually come from? Well, to get that, you really have to look at the man who wrote the book. The setting of this story is no accident. On the right, there's Saint-Exupéry, the pilot, and on the left, his creation. I mean, the narrator of the book is a pilot who crashes in the desert. It's pretty obvious the author is writing about himself. It's almost as if the world-weary pilot and the curious little prince are two halves of his own personality. And his life was this incredible mix of adventure and just profound solitude. He was one of the pioneers of airmail, flying over these vast, empty landscapes when aviation was still a really dangerous frontier. So that experience of being totally alone, high above the world, that shaped everything he wrote, and his own story ends in mystery. He just disappeared during a mission in World War II. A strangely fitting end. Really, now this is crucial. The story isn't set in some fantasy land, it's in the Sahara Desert. And that's because Saint-Exupéry actually crashed his plane there in 1935. The story was born from a real-life, threatening experience of isolation. It's only in a place like that, where all those matters of consequence are stripped away, that a real conversation can finally happen. And that conversation is what leads us to the absolute heart of the book. If the problem is the loneliness of the adult world, the solution is something the book calls taming. And trust me, it's not as simple as it sounds. So the prince gets to Earth and he's totally convinced that his flower is the only one like her in the entire universe. And then he stumbles upon a garden with 5,000 roses, all looking exactly like his, and it just breaks him. He has a full-on existential crisis. If his rose isn't unique, then what was the point of all his love and all his care? Does it all mean nothing? It's right at this low point that he meets the fox, and the fox introduces him to the single most important idea in the whole book. To tame something isn't about controlling it or making it your pet, as the fox says. It simply means to establish ties. It's the slow, careful process of creating a real relationship. And this is the result. The fox explains that before they establish ties, he's just one fox out of 100,000 times. But if they go through the process of taming, they will become irreplaceable to each other. Uniqueness isn't something you just find. It's something you have to create. And the book is so specific about how you do this. It's not instant. It takes a ton of patience. You start by just being near each other in silence. Because, as the fox says, words are the source of misunderstandings. It's this quiet, gradual ritual of building trust. Then comes the heaviest line in the book. Taming isn't just a feeling, it's a huge commitment. It forges this permanent bond. And with that bond comes a deep, unavoidable responsibility. Once you establish that tie, you are on the hook forever. And suddenly, the prince gets it. His rose wasn't born unique. She became unique because of their relationship, the care he gave her, the protection, the time he spent just listening to her. That's what made her different from those other 5,000 roses. And this right here is the core of it all. Value isn't just there. It's created by our attention, by our love, by investing our most precious resource, our time. What the adult world would call wasted time is actually the very thing that gives life meaning. This is the fox's big secret. It's the thesis of the entire book. The grown UPS, they can't see it. They're too focused on numbers and surfaces. The king, the businessman, the geographer, they all miss it. But the prince, he finally understands the ties, the responsibility, the love. Those are the essential things, and you can only see them with your heart. Okay, so this brings us to the book's ending. It's usually remembered as being bittersweet, sad but hopeful. But I think there's a much quieter, more tragic reading hiding in plain sight. So the story sets up this problem. The prince has to get back to his planet to take care of his rose, but his body is too heavy to make the trip. He has to leave it behind. So the question is, how does he actually makes it home? For that, he turns to the very first creature he met on Earth, the snake, the one he called more powerful than the finger of a king. Now listen to the way the snake talks. It's deliberately vague, full of riddles. What does send back to the Earth from whence he came actually mean? Is he talking about a magical flight back to an asteroid, or something much more final? And this leaves us with a really tough question. Do we go with the children's story version, where a snake's bite is some kind of magic passport to the stars? Or do we consider the more painful reading that this whole thing is an allegory for dealing with loss? That a snake's bite is just a snake's bite, and the prince's return is the narrator's way of coping with grief? Honestly, the narrator's own words seem to point toward that sadder conclusion. He says he's writing the book to make sure he doesn't forget. That doesn't sound like a guy who just witnessed a magical departure. It sounds like someone trying to process a real permanent loss. So, after all these decades, why does this sad philosophical little book still hit so hard? I think it's because the problems that identified have only gotten more intense. That feeling of being alone, even when you're surrounded by people. Check a culture that's constantly telling you to measure your worth in followers, likes, and salary. The same figures the grown UPS adored. Yeah, the struggle to make deep and patient connections in a world built for instant gratification. The book is basically holding up a mirror to our modern anxieties. This line from the fox feels less like a piece of dialogue and more like a prophecy. Men have no more time to understand anything. They buy things ready, made friendships, opinions, entire lifestyles that patient, difficult work of taming, of truly getting to know another person or an idea, or even yourself. It feels like a luxury we can't afford anymore. In the end, The Little Prince doesn't give us easy answers. It leaves us with an image instead. A small boy on a tiny planet, responsible for a single, fragile rose. It suggests that the most important things in our lives are also the most vulnerable. And it leaves us with the same quiet question that haunts the narrator. Did the sheep eat the flower? Is the thing we're responsible for safe? The book never tells us. We're just left to wonder, looking up at the stars. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button. It really helps the channel. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into books and stories like this, and let me know in the comments your thoughts and which book you want us to explore next.